For years, I thought managing money had to be complicated. Budget spreadsheets, finance apps, investment strategies, tracking every dollar. And honestly, the more complicated I made money, the worse my financial life became. Because eventually, I stopped following the system completely. It felt exhausting. That's when I realized something important. A financial plan that feels overwhelming usually doesn't survive real life. So I simplified everything. And strangely enough, that's when my finances finally started improving. Not because I became smarter, but because I created a money plan simple enough to follow consistently. And honestly, that changed everything. Most people don't fail financially because they're unintelligent. They fail because money feels mentally heavy. Too many rules. Too many opinions. Too many conflicting strategies online. Save aggressively. Invest aggressively. Cut spending. Increase income. Buy assets. Avoid debt. Track everything. After a while, financial advice starts sounding like noise. That's exactly where I was. I consumed endless finance content. Watched budgeting videos. Tried productivity systems. Downloaded apps I stopped using after 3 days. And despite all of that, I still felt financially stressed. Not because I lacked information. Because I lacked clarity. That's when I stopped asking, "What's the perfect money strategy?" and started asking, "What's the simplest system I can actually maintain long term?" That question changed my entire financial life. At first, I believed complicated systems meant better results. The more detailed the plan, the more serious it felt. So I tracked every expense obsessively. Every coffee. Every subscription. Every tiny purchase. And for a short period, it worked. Until life became stressful. That's when the system collapsed. Because complicated financial systems depend heavily on energy and motivation. And motivation disappears faster than people realize. Especially during stressful periods. That's something many finance experts ignore. A system only works if you can still follow it on bad days. Not just productive days. That realization completely changed how I approached money. One night, I remember staring at my budgeting app feeling mentally exhausted. Not because I was broke, because I was tired of constantly thinking about money. Every purchase felt emotionally loaded. Every decision felt like pressure. And eventually, I stopped checking the app altogether. That's when things quietly got worse again. Overspending returned. Impulse purchases returned. Financial anxiety returned. And honestly, that cycle frustrated me more than low income ever did. Because I kept failing systems that were supposed to work. Eventually I realized something powerful. Complexity creates resistance. And resistance destroys consistency. That's true in almost every part of life. Fitness, productivity, habits, and especially money. So I made one decision: simplify everything. Not temporarily. Completely. Instead of creating the perfect financial system, I created the easiest possible system that still moved me forward. That distinction matters. Because most people optimize for perfection. Successful people often optimize for sustainability, and sustainable systems win long term. Every time. My plan became incredibly simple. Every paycheck followed the same structure automatically. First, a percentage went directly into savings. Immediately. Before spending. Before emotions entered the process. Second, a percentage went into investing. Even if the amount felt small. Because consistency mattered more than size. Third, bills and essentials. Housing. Food. Transportation. Basic living expenses. And finally, guilt-free spending. This part changed everything psychologically. Because before this, my budgets always felt restrictive, like punishment. Now, I could spend certain money freely without guilt. That reduced emotional spending dramatically. Ironically, giving myself controlled freedom made me more responsible financially. Not less. The reason this system worked wasn't mathematical. It was psychological. That's the part most people miss about money. A good financial system reduces emotional friction. Mine worked because I stopped making endless financial decisions. I stopped tracking obsessively. I stopped chasing perfection. And most importantly, I stopped relying on motivation. That last part matters enormously, because motivation changes daily. Systems continue quietly in the background. And honestly, quiet consistency builds wealth far more effectively than short bursts of extreme discipline. But surprisingly, the biggest benefit wasn't saving more money. It was something much deeper. Something I never expected. For the first time in years, money stopped feeling chaotic. That's difficult to explain unless you've experienced financial stress constantly. Before this system, money felt emotionally noisy. Anxiety, guilt, avoidance, overthinking. Now, things felt calmer, predictable, controlled. Not perfect. Controlled. That emotional shift changed everything. Because financial peace isn't only about numbers. It's about mental clarity, and mental clarity improves decision-making everywhere else in life too. You sleep better, think clearer, feel less trapped. And honestly, that emotional stability is worth more than many people realize. Looking back now, I think many people overcomplicate money because complexity feels productive. But complicated systems often fail under real-world pressure. Simple systems survive. That's why wealthy people often repeat boring financial principles. Spend less than you earn. Invest consistently. Avoid unnecessary debt. Think long-term. It sounds almost too simple. That's because simplicity isn't exciting. But simplicity scales. And scalable habits create powerful long-term outcomes. One of the biggest lies social media tells people is that wealth requires extreme complexity. Secret strategies. Perfect timing. Advanced investing techniques. But honestly, most financial success comes from basic behaviors repeated consistently over long periods. That's it. The difficulty isn't knowledge. It's consistency. And consistency becomes dramatically easier when your system feels manageable. That realization changed how I see discipline completely, because sustainable simplicity often beats intense optimization. Months after simplifying my financial life, something strange happened. I stopped obsessing over money constantly. Not because I became rich. Because I trusted my system. That trust matters enormously. Because when your financial life feels stable, your brain stops operating in survival mode. You stop panicking over every expense. You stop feeling constant guilt. You stop emotionally reacting to money every day. And honestly, that emotional freedom felt more valuable than the actual savings at first. My simplified money plan worked because it respected human behavior. Not ideal behavior. Real behavior. It assumed I would get tired sometimes. Emotional sometimes. Imperfect sometimes. And instead of demanding perfection, the system kept working anyway. That's what changed everything. Because successful financial systems aren't built around motivation. They're built around sustainability. And sustainability quietly creates results over time. I used to believe money management had to feel difficult to be effective. Now I believe the opposite. If your financial system constantly overwhelms you, you probably won't follow it long term. And long-term behavior matters more than short-term intensity. That's why simplifying my money plan changed my life. Not because it made me rich overnight, but because it finally gave me consistency. And consistency changes financial lives slowly, then permanently. What's the most confusing part about managing money for you? Budgeting? Saving? Investing? Staying consistent? Comment below. Because honestly, most people struggle with money silently while pretending everything is fine. And if you want more videos about personal finance, money psychology, and realistic wealth building, subscribe. Because financial freedom usually doesn't start with complicated strategies. It starts with simple systems repeated consistently over time.